Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. I'm super excited for today. We're going to be talking about the Four Agreements book. If you guys have not heard of this book, then you must check it out. It is going to be life-changing for you to hear this. And the reason is because we all came from a past. We all have a past. We all think that we are who we are because of our past, which is partially true, but I want to really help you identify who are you really. Like, let's strip back all of the past. Let's strip back all of the crap that we've gone through in our life, and let's find out who we really are. Okay, if you're ready, we're going to dive in. Perfect. Now, let's think about that question. Who are you really? And let's remove everything. When did you first learn your first thing, right? Some would say that this was before you were born, and I'm not disputing that. I just don't know how much of your recollection comes from before you're born. I do believe that certain emotions, certain things that your parents have, that translates through hormones, whether it's cortisol, dopamine, adrenaline, whatever, and that can create or be fed into the bloodstream of the baby, and so then you're going to have some impact there. Well, let's say you're born now, you're a brand new baby. What impact do you think where you're born, the family you're born, has on you? Well, let's talk about language. What language do you speak, or languages? And why do you speak those languages or that language? Is it because before you ever came to this planet, it was destined that you would speak that language? Or do you simply speak that language because that's the language that everybody around you spoke? So that was something that you had to choose to accept in your life, and you weren't able to really dictate that or control that situation. That was something that you had to accept out of your life, and you either did accept it or you didn't accept it, but that's up to you. Okay, so one is going to be language. Well, what other things did we accept? What other types of agreements? Well, the monkeys, right? If we go back evolutionally, they had a certain way of culture. They had a certain way of deciding who was on top and who was not on top, and who was important in that leadership. Well, do we still operate on that system, or do we have a more sophisticated social system that we operate in? And I would argue that the social structure that you're born into, or the family structure, all the rules, all the beliefs about whether something's right or wrong or good or bad, all those things, they were told to you, and then you had to accept them or reject them. Okay. Now, there comes a point in our childhood where we actually decide to start trying to assert our own independence. Okay. So my son, he is, how old is he now? Like 120 months. So no, not 120 months. I don't know. He's like 18 months or a year, a little over a year and a half, we'll say. And so he has most recently started saying no to a lot of things, just because he just likes to say no. And if I'm thinking, okay, I like to say no a lot, why is he saying no? Well, it's because he just can. And so he's going to try to say no. He's pushing the boundaries. He wants to know what's allowed, what's not, right? He also has gotten into what I like to consider a hitting phase. I don't think he naturally likes to hit people or abuse people, but I do think that that's part of learning, right? If I look at dogs and the way dogs operate, if you look at a group of puppies, they live with their mom for about 8 weeks after they're born on generally. And as a result of them living with these, they're going to play, and they're going to be biting each other, and they're learning how hard is too hard to bite. And every time occasionally you hear like a yelp from the group of dogs. That's because one dog bit too hard, so the other yelped to let him know, hey, that was too hard. You bit too hard. Okay. In our family, we have the same thing, right? Our son, he sometimes likes to hit, and I, as a dad, I think sometimes I like him to learn to roughhouse, and so I roughhouse with him, and I'm okay with him playfully hitting me or pushing me or whatever, right? Playfully. But as soon as I see in his eyes or in his face or whatever that he's doing it out of anger, then that's when I'm going to sit there and say, okay, not okay. This has now gone too far, because I don't think that doing things out of anger are the best thing. I think if you want to play and mess around and roughhouse, that's great, but not out of anger. However, a rule in our house is that I don't let my son hit my wife, right? That's something that I just don't like. Even playfully, I'm not a huge fan of him hitting my wife or any women. And so that's kind of a line that I'm drawing for him. Now, he can choose to accept that or reject that, but I'm going to hold that line fast, and he's going to have to move out of my house if he chooses to not accept that line, right? So our whole life is based on agreements that we are accepting or rejecting from our outward surroundings. So your whole life, I would say, is created by somebody else. And so the 4 agreements this book is going over what are the 4 main agreements that we all need to have with ourselves to actually have radical self-acceptance, the topic of the week, or actually progress and be whole for somebody else. How can we actually completely engage with somebody else to actually have a meaningful and fulfilling relationship? And so the first one is to be impeccable with your word. So what does that mean even? What does it mean to be impeccable with your word? When I was younger, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but there was a sign that I put on my door. It was a saying that my oldest brother told me that my dad said. So I believe it came from my dad, and I love that it came from my dad, right? So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But he said that it's better to be trusted than loved. And what does that mean exactly, right? Well, for me, growing up, it meant I would rather be impeccably honest and do what I say I'm going to do than be loved, right? Even if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, I would rather be true to my word and true to how I feel than worry about somebody else. My mom, she very, very always, it was basically always, we had to memorize the definition of the word integrity. There was a lot of focus in our household about integrity and being in integrity, not just with others, but with ourselves, right? First, be integrity with yourselves. That allows you to be at or in integrity with others. Now, I believe that we are always going to be in and out of integrity because we're human and we are flawed. We're all going to be changing. But are we striving for complete integrity, to be completely impeccable with our word? When we say we're going to do something, we actually do it, okay? So that's the first thing, the 4 agreements that we need to have with ourselves to really be whole for somebody else. Are you going to be impeccable with your word? Then second thing, don't take anything personally, right? Everybody else, they are simply acting based off of the agreements that they've accepted in their lives based on their situation and their circumstances, right? They're not showing up for you the way they're showing up because they don't like you, or they don't like the way you look, or the way you taste, or the way you smell, or whatever, right? They're showing up that way because maybe they had preconceived things that were taught to them, agreements that they were forced to accept as children, and they've accepted them throughout their life, and now those are showing up and they're in conflict with the agreements that you chose to accept. And so don't take anything personally. Let it roll off your back and say, okay, that's different than what I'm willing to accept. And so you can distance yourself from those people. You can explain to those people that that certain agreement is not going to be kept. But if you don't know what your agreements are, then it's hard to specify this. This is why a huge thing for me when we're talking about fueling our legacy and really pushing our legacy towards something great and significant is you need to identify your identity. Over the weekend, I taught a social media marketing class. And so many people were like, well, I only want to talk about my business on social media. Like, nobody wants to hear just about your business. They want to know you. They want to know, who is this individual? When I'm marketing, I'm not marketing just my business or just my podcast or just one area of my life. I'm marketing everything. I'm saying, hey, look, I am Samuel Knickerbocker. This is who I am. This is what I like. This is how I think. And the people who really can agree with that or see the benefit in associating with me, having those thoughts and those behaviors as the way of communication, let's connect. Everybody else, like, I love you, I care about you, but I understand that you may not feel the same towards me because of different situations in your life. And I'm okay with that. I firmly believe that there's somebody out there for everybody, especially in a coach-mentor setting. But what I do feel is that you have the ability to start to create your own agreements and to start filtering through, okay, I accepted this agreement. I accepted that when somebody said my hair looked bad, I was going to believe it. And I kept accepting that. for my whole life. But today, I'm actually going to change that. I'm no longer going to accept that agreement. And so now when somebody tells me my hair looks bad, I think, no, I don't agree with you. I love my hair. I love the way I look. I love my makeup. I love the way I parent my children. I love the car I drive. Whatever it is, are you willing to not take anything personally anymore and just be completely whole with yourself, and you decide what you want? Are you willing to identify your identity? And I think to do that, one, you have to first be impeccable with your word to yourself first and then to others. And then you have to learn to not take things personally, because I promise you, as you begin to assert your independence from all of these agreements that you've accepted in the past, there's going to be some haters. There's going to be some people who are generally on the other end of that agreement that you're breaking, and they're not going to be super happy that you broke the agreement that was agreed upon by both of you. Really, you just accepted it in the beginning, and now you're saying, I'm not accepting that anymore. But you need to be clear about that. The third agreement actually plays right into that, and that is don't make assumptions, right? So one, don't take things personally, but two, three, don't make assumptions about what other people are doing, behaving, their intentions, why they might have done something, or don't make assumptions that somebody else is going to just automatically agree to one of your agreements that you've made with yourself. Just because you've made that agreement doesn't mean that everybody around you's made that agreement. So you can't hold it against them for not participating in an agreement that you've made with yourself. Okay. And then lastly is always do your best. You must always do your best, always be striving to put in 100% or 120% effort. Because if you're not, then how are you really being impeccable with your word? How are you really not taking anything personally? How are you really not making assumptions? You have to always do your best and make that one of your agreements that, hey, no matter what happens, I'm going to do everything I can to show up 100% for people. And as you do that, as you really take on those 4 agreements and bless the lives of others with them, I think there's going to be happiness. Now, do you have to accept these 4 agreements? No, that's one of the blessings, and that's one of the main things about the book. When we were talking about mindset, a book review, I think 2 weeks ago, we talked about how some books are really, they're just for awareness, and then other books are like textbooks where you really are going to do line by line or page by page, and you're going to work through it, and it's a workbook, right? I would not say the 4 agreements is a workbook. I think it's more of an awareness book. So once you're aware of all of the agreements that you accept in your life, then you can actually decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to get rid of. Nobody else should be dictating to you, in my opinion, nobody else should be dictating to you what agreements you should keep or what agreements you shouldn't keep. That comes from first identifying yourself, and me included. I don't want to be the one dictating, saying, hey, you should accept all of these agreements and you should get rid of these agreements. Hey, everybody's different, and that's okay. For me, I tend to be very, what I believe, a strong and independent person. And it was important to me when I was dating my wife that there were certain agreements that were going to be there, right? I love my family. I'm absolutely committed to my family. I really, 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 really value friendship. Not just of my family, but of other people. So friends are a big part of my life. I really enjoy hanging out with friends. And that something that happens commonly in marriages is they will get rid of all their friends and they'll just be with their spouse. For me, that was not going to be okay. And I made sure that my wife knew that at the beginning, that friends are important to me. We're going to hang out with friends. We're going to have relationships with friends. And I'm not going to just sever all of my friendship relationships just because I'm dating or marrying you. No, I still have friends. I've built relationships with these other people, and those relationships are important to me. Not more important than you, but also for somebody to come in and say, hey, look, you should just change your whole entire life just for me. That's not a fair or equal level of standing. Now, if somebody chooses to do that, that's different. But for somebody to demand that type of change, one of the agreements that I have with myself is I'm not going to live with somebody who's going to demand me to change for me to get their acceptance, you could say. And so that was something that my wife and I had discussed very early on in our relationship, and she was okay with it. I'm okay with it. And so that produced a good outcome, in our relationship and now in our marriage. But everybody has different agreements that they're going to choose to keep in their life and to get rid of in their life. But again, the first step is to be aware that everything is an agreement, down to the language, the way you pick your nose, the way you do your hair, the way you brush your teeth. All of those things are agreements that you saw modeled by others and then accepted into your life, or you created them in your own life, but you agreed that with yourself, hey, this is how I'm going to continue to act, or this is how I'm going to show up in the world. So just that one simple understanding of the idea of agreements. Now, this book, obviously, the 4 agreements, it comes out with these 4 agreements that I've discussed. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. What was the other one? Don't make assumptions, and then do your best, right? Those were the 4 agreements that at the end they said, hey, these 4 agreements are going to be the most self-serving for you to accept. And that's a bold statement, especially coming from the basis of the book of, hey, look, I'm just trying to make you aware of different things. But I do love the book. I think everybody needs it. I just gave you a scratch of the surface, but this is definitely, you need to go actually experience the book to actually become fully aware of what these agreements are. I'm going to put a link in the show notes here so you can go to Amazon and pick that up, or Audible, whatever works best for you to get this information. Some people listen to it on YouTube. Some people go to the library. I don't really care how you listen to it, but I do believe that this will greatly benefit and improve the situations in your life, especially in communicating with others when you become aware. Again, a great coach of mine, he says, you're only as powerful as you are aware, and you're only potentially dangerous as you are unaware. And so would you rather be powerful or dangerous, or maybe both? I mean, who knows, right? It's really up to you, but I just know that this changed my life. I'm excited for Stephanie Iliff to come on and just blow our minds with how this book has shaped her life and changed the way she's done in her business. She started at kind of an entry-level position at a firm, and really she's actually the vice president at this time of that firm, because she's just so incredible at knowing who she is and what she's after, and making sure that the people around her, that those are clear as well. And that enables you, as you're willing to be more clear about who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, that enables others to identify, okay, this is how they can benefit and be a benefit to me in my life. And then they connect healthily to those individuals who have figured that out. And she's one of them. And that's why I'm going to have her on here on Friday to share her experiences and how she rose from entry-level employee up to the vice president of this company so quickly, and maybe some of the things that are in her near future and how she is impacting and blessing others' lives, specifically women. She's a women empowerment coach. And I just think if you get a chance to follow her on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you find her, definitely take the chance to engage, send her a message, and get to know her a little bit better, her story. She does hold some events as well that are going to be just killer to help people go through this experience of asserting their independence again, identifying their identity, and then being intentional with what agreements they choose. So hopefully that's helpful. Actually, I know it's helpful, but hopefully you get something out of it. And we will talk to you on Friday. It's going to be awesome. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.